Welcome, Allison. Welcome, Jean. One, two.
How do you, okay.
Nine.
And I'm responding to your hello to Jeannie. I'm gonna turn it.
Oh,
I'll turn this off because I'm just want to listen in
I-
to personal
Jean, don't take this wrong, but I remember you as being better looking.
That's a low bar.
Yeah. Allison, I'm certainly ready to start. Without Steve DeForest here, I do have a question. And that is for the general meeting where we introduce the trustee candidates and vote on the slate. Don't we need 12 trustees to have arrived to have a quorum? Janice, is that correct?
Except I wonder if we have to have a vote, because usually the vote happens when there are too many candidates for the seats that are available.
Well, the way the bylaws read, we will vote, I guess we can entertain a motion to vote on the slate. But there does need to be a vote.
Okay.
Here's Bob Kettle.
How many openings are there and how many candidates do we have? Because I was just talking to somebody who I think would be superb and lives in Magnolia. And
Great. Earl, do you want to answer that question?
As best I can, yes. We have 5 current trustees who have agreed to remain on. So those positions will, I guess, be voted on as part of the slate. We have 2 nominees that we'll vote on tonight. And I believe, I don't know how many additional openings we have, but I think it's several. And thanks to David Mooring, Scott, is your last name pronounced Sirke or Sirke? Now you're on mute. You're on mute, Scott. By the way, Scott, okay. Sorry about that. We got him in too late for the timeline for nominees to be voted on tonight, but Steve DeForest indicated that we could bring on additional people in January for unfilled spots. So I will get the exact number, but Janice, if you have more people, that would be good. I've reached out to somebody else as well. Councilman Kettle, welcome. Well, Councilman-elect.
Thank you, Earl. Yes, elect.
Yes, all right. We have to be precise.
So Stephen DeForest, can you hear me?
it might be Stephen F.
No, I briefly saw his
Oh.
face.
Okay.
David, do you need me to look something up? I've got the bylaws here. Are you still wondering about the vote?
My only concern is, can we have a vote if we don't have a quorum? That's
Okay.
all.
I'll peruse the bylaws and see if I can find something.
And I believe a quorum is 12 trustees. And I know that Ezekiel, Mary is supposed to join us. Ezekiel had a conflict tonight. And David Mooring can't join us till 8 p.m. While we're going through that part of the process, I'll explain again. I'll remind everybody, please, if you haven't, sign in via chat for purposes of our minutes.
They can still introduce themselves. It's only the actual
Hang on,
vote
Carol. Give
that
me a
requires
moment.
a quorum.
Give me a moment. I was going to suggest, because there may be one or two stragglers, and while Amy is looking up the answer to the question on the vote, that we might ask our councilman-elect to take a moment. He's not formally part of our agenda. Bob is joining us primarily, I believe, to listen and learn. But as long as we've got a small lapse, Bob, would you like to take a couple minutes and reintroduce yourself to our group, and then I'll shift back into the regular agenda.
Sure. Thanks, David. And thank you everyone for letting me join in. This is not my first Magnolia Community Council meeting that I've joined. Primarily before the pandemic, I used to do a number of join the meetings on public safety issues, either crime security or emergency preparedness. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to come back. And but yeah, so now I'm coming back in a new position, and I'm looking forward to representing D7 Magnolia. And I just at the start want to say I met with Dan Strauss today at an event this afternoon, and Dan and I will be meeting soon, and we'll have a good close working relationship, and Magnolia will have 2 council members looking out for your interests, across the board. And he's well versed on, I believe, most of the issues, and obviously in my time with the Queen Anne Community Council, and the issues in Interbay in between and so forth, that there's some familiarity with the issues. And so that's what I'm looking to bring. It's similar to the campaign talking points and such, that at the end of the day, it's about good governance, and it's about being that positive, engaged leadership with bringing in all stakeholders. So Magnolia Community Council is going to be a key stakeholder, and listening in on the issues that are of concern to you. And obviously public safety is one, obviously transportation's other, but I'm still learning others too. I had a little walkabout in a little park area along the D6-7 border area. So learning new things just to the outside near the marina. So learning still little things related to Magnolia, which was great to do. And so just looking to bring that experience, and listening to what the issues of concern here. Obviously, I'm aware of the transportation's issues. We've talked bridges before, but if there's anything else, and I apologize if anybody takes any umbrage, but I've been joking that the Magnolia Village is a D7 enclave within D6. I call it the West Berlin of the Seattle district system. And so oftentimes you may see me at the Uptown Espresso there in Magnolia Village or Petit Pierre, or the pub itself. So yeah, I've been calling the Magnolia Village the West Berlin of the Magnolia of the Seattle district system. And but that just goes to show that the D6 and D7 are going to be intertwined, just like Germany. And moving forward. So despite the artificialness of having 2 districts, I think Dan and I will definitely make sure that Magnolia is well covered. So that's just the approach that I'm going to be looking to do. By the way, we do have a new cohort coming in. We definitely are having a reset of the council, and it's going to have a reset of its relationship, no doubt, with SBD, with the business community, and across the board. And it's going to be interesting how this plays out. There's going to be a different tone, as you know, from the cohort which I'm part of. But also I've had discussions with Tammy Morales like a month ago, and we spoke to this issue. And so she's looking to productively engage with different council members and kind of move away from the theatrics that we've seen over the last number of years. So I think that's something that we have to look forward to, and hopefully that reset will allow us to move forward on the issues that impact the city, District 7, and Magnolia, to include the D6 part. So thank you. I'm going to be relatively quiet outside of that, David, because there's only one council member at a time, and I need to be focused on the transition and building a team and getting smart on the issues and so forth, and smarter. I've already been well acclimated to a number of them, and so I appreciate the opportunity. And moving, one last thing I'll say, David, it is, and everyone here, is that I was serious on the campaign trail. Starting beginning of next year, I'm going to I think the loss of the district councils by Mayor Murray was a big mistake. I know that it needed to be reformed, but he made a mistake in terms of just disbanding it and getting rid of it. And so I'm going to look to create a District 7 neighborhood council where we bring the Magnolia Community Council leadership, the Queen Anne community, South Lake Union, East Lake, Belltown. I'd like to see a creation of a downtown community council where the leaders of all these organizations, not necessarily the chairs, but maybe committee chairs if it's something specific on public safety or transportation, and just have that opportunity to have that engagement between the neighborhoods and myself as a council member, and vice versa. But as I said many times, I think it'd be very helpful for Belltown to learn from Magnolia, Queen Anne to learn from downtown, and the smarter the neighborhoods are on all the various issues out there, the better you all can keep the city hall's feet to the fire. And I think that would be a very positive step, particularly with the new council and being engaged and just being matter of fact and away from the theatrics that we've had over the years. So I just wanted to close on that, because I'm quite serious. So hopefully I invite the council here to partake in that, and I would hope that you would do so. And I think it would be a great experience for the Magnolia Community Council as well. So thank you.
Bob, thank you. And we look forward to working with you. And of course, we look forward to seeing you in your official capacity when we convene this coming year on January 16th. And I'll also speak very briefly for Janice and say, and we're looking forward to you championing our 1-for-1 replacement of the Magnolia Bridge. With that, and Amy has looked up the rules for me. Thank you, Amy. Simple majority is adequate. I'm going to go back to the formal agenda that I sent out yesterday. So the way this meeting works, we have a general meeting of the Magnolia Community Council, and then we have a trustees meeting of the Magnolia Community Council. The general meeting is where we introduce the new candidates, and we retain the slate of those who are due for renewal. Earl Cohen has been the chair of our trustee recruitment committee, has 2 wonderful candidates to introduce us to, as well as a third who I think should also speak to us. And guys, please introduce yourselves briefly. And Earl, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you for this section of the meeting.
Okay, thank you, David. So the nominee committee was comprised of myself and lots of other people who sought out candidates and identified them for us. Allison, thank you. Lester, thank you. David Mooring, thank you. With that, we have 2 candidates here this evening. Brad Miller, longtime Queen Anne resident who recently moved a couple blocks from me, and I had the pleasure of knowing him for a few years because we work out together at the Seattle gym. At least we did before COVID. And I will let him speak in a minute, just give you a quick overview of himself. And then we also have Kurt Nielsen, whose roots run deep in Magnolia. Everybody that's familiar with Munger Pool, his mother is a Munger. And first graduating class of my junior high alma mater, Catherine Blaine Junior High, before it became a K through 8. And Kurt is a longtime resident of Magnolia and has been involved in a variety of things. The third candidate that David was kind enough to recruit for us, and Scott has agreed to be a trustee when we vote him in, hopefully in January, because we missed the cutoff for a third candidate. And Scott will talk as well. So let's start with Brad. Just like a minute or two recap of your entire life.
Sure, thank you, Earl. Shouldn't take that long. Yeah, I'm really pleased to be a candidate to be on the council. My experience is I've been an architect in Seattle for 35 years, started a firm in 1999, and have been a business owner since then, and recently stepping away from that, worked extensively with City of Seattle, Parks Department, Police Department, Fire Department, Seattle Public Libraries, amongst that, and Seattle Public Schools. So I have a lot of experience with the public process from the consultant side, and I'm just excited to be able to be part of it from the representation and really for me the learning side. I'm very interested in the resources that you all have and the chance to be part of that, and providing some communication and leadership in the community. So thank you very much.
Kurt?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Kurt Nielsen, 30-year resident of Magnolia. But as Earl mentioned, my mother goes way back to the mid to late 40s when her family moved to Magnolia, and she grew up here. Again, she was first class at Catherine Blaine Junior High School, Queen Anne High School. And my first memories of Magnolia this is where my grandparents lived, and this is I would go visit Pop and Elma Munger on the boulevard, and we would walk to the village. And so I guess go back to the late 60s in terms of those early memories. Professionally, I am kind of semi-retired. I do consulting out of my own house, which is kitty corner to Lester Thompson. So you can blame Lester for me being here. I like Lester. I have some Indiana connection. My MBA is from Indiana University, but I'm a UW grad, history grad. I professionally, I was involved in electrical contracting and particularly commercial lighting. I ran a commercial lighting company for many years, then moved over to the utility side and worked for Seattle City Light, where I ran the lighting design lab, which was a kind of a government information center for the best practices in commercial lighting. And since leaving there, I've been consulting on my own for the last 7 years. That's it. Three kids, but all grown out of the house, but all grew up here in this house in Magnolia.
I know we're not going to vote on Scott tonight, but I think it would be nice if, since he's here, if Scott could just tell us a little bit about his great background as well.
I think I need to up my game on my Magnolia roots. So let me see how far back I can
Yeah,
go.
you've been here 26 years.
I've lived here full time for about for 26 years, and I grew up on the East Coast, but my father lived out here in Magnolia on 28th and Lynn. So I spent my summers as a youngster and a teenager in Magnolia. So I, shortly after high school, moved here to go to UW. So I've got my master's in urban planning and my certificate of commercial real estate from the University of Washington. Go Huskies. Lived in Magnolia full-time for 26 years, as I mentioned. Public participation, I was on the Seattle Design Review Committee for the Northwest Seattle for 4 years. Recently, I was on the Albertsons Advisory Committee, meeting with the city and meeting with the developer on the big proposed Magnolia, the Albertsons / Safeway condo project. I've been involved in design and predominantly development management. I've worked for multi-family developers for going on 20 years. Most recently, I was working with Lake Union Partners, and Lake Union Partners specializes in transit-oriented development and mixed-use, mid-rise, and mixed-income development. Unfortunately, the interest rates killed all of our pipeline, so I find myself now with a little bit of time on my hands while I'm in transition. So that's where I'm at. But I'm quite an advocate of high density. I'm also an advocate of transit-oriented development and mixed use, responsible industrial development, and also access to waterfronts. And I'm also a staunch advocate for better recreational facilities. And I would also say, though I'm an advocate for high density housing, I also cherish the beautiful neighborhoods that we live in and hope that they grow responsibly and that we don't become just, another East Coast city full of block to block townhouses and no open space. So responsible development is real important to me.
Thank you. All right. I think I'm going to defer to Stephen DeForest here. Stephen, is this the time where we vote on the slate? I should say who is returning first of all of the existing trustees. But after I do that, do we simply just call a vote?
Yes.
Well, that's quite the echo you've got there. Okay, in addition to the two candidates that we'll vote on tonight, Brad and Kurt, I'm pleased to inform people that the following trustees have agreed to stay on the board. That includes Carol Burton, myself, Allison Grostad, David Kaplan, and Jason Morris. Did I miss anybody? I think we had a few people that have decided to leave the board, but these are the 5 that are re-upping. Okay. So do we have
Make a
motion to approve the slate?
so moved.
Second,
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the slate? Raise your hand or say aye.
aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. The slate
purposes
is
of-
up.
For purposes of the minutes, I will verbally note that the slate was approved unanimously.
Okay. Great.
A vote is always approved unanimously unless there are objections. And in this case, there were no objections.
Cool.
My favorite phrase in Rogers in Rules of Order is hearing no objections.
And I heard none.
I like it.
So at this point, Earl, thank you. Welcome to our 2 new trustees, Scott. I look forward to welcome you next month. Also, note that we will be electing our 2024 slate of officers in our January meeting as well. With that, I am adjourning the general meeting and now opening the regular trustee meeting of the Magnolia Community Council. Welcome, everybody. I believe everybody here is signed in via our chat. If not, please do so. Steve DeForest, I signed in for you.
Thank you.
David Mooring, I signed in for you as well. The next approval of our October 2023 meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Can I get a motion to approve the proposed agenda that was sent?
so moved.
Can I get a second? Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. First item of our agenda this week, or this month rather, is announcement of our holiday party. Allison, do you want to share the news and the timing and the location?
Yeah, sure. So I think you all may have been at the last meeting when Matthew Koenig graciously volunteered his newly remodeled home for our get together, which we gratefully accepted. And so we set the date for Thursday, December 7th. If you want to just save the date on that, I'm thinking the time will be between 5:30 and 8 o'clock. It will be a potluck as it is every year. Look forward to getting together with everybody. And we'll have, we'll invite some other people too. I'd like to invite the Colsons and other folks that have been really active with our group this year. So be on the lookout. I'll be sending out an invitation and a sign up for the food and beverages and fun. So you'll be receiving some emails from me in the next few weeks. And that's, I think, all about that. And then there was a lot of interest in doing a cooking class together at Casper's. Maybe we will do that in January or February as just a fun event on the side. Any questions? Okay.
Do look forward to seeing everybody on December 7th. We've gone back and forth over the course of 2023 as to when we are going to relaunch the in-person meetings. We actually have put it to a vote twice. This most recent vote is pretty much overwhelmingly pushing us back into in-person. Allison and I and Amy, we may want to have you help us reach out to Fatima as a possible location, and we're looking at UCC, which we've used in the past. The advantage of Fatima, of course, is the parking, and frankly, the big screen and the laptop that comes with the room, and would allow us to pipe in a Zoom component. So if we have dignitaries and guests who cannot make the trip, we can pipe them in and have them on a big screen. And of course, any of our trustees that are not comfortable or able on any given third Tuesday to making the live meeting, we want to actually be able to accommodate them as well. But we are intending for our January 16th meeting to be live and in person, and at a location TBD, but most likely either Fatima or UCC. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions on this topic? Yes, Amy.
Should we start working now to nail down that January date?
Yes, yes. That's
So
what I
you
say.
want me
Allison
to-
and I and Mary, who has the relationship. Mary was supposed to be here tonight, and I'm a little concerned that she hasn't joined us.
I saw her today. I know she was
Oh,
planning to
good,
join.
good. That I'm relieved. But she had communicated to me that she was going to be joining us. Yes, we need to reach out now to the possible. We need a larger room than the one we used to use, because it's imperative that people feel comfortable and that there's an ability to spread out. And again, we need to also have some component where folks who can't make it in person can come in from the outside, and we'll address both those issues. It'll be easiest to address it at Fatima just based on my observation of the facility, but I don't know if it's available.
Okay, I'll send him the dates for our meeting. So do you want me to just see if we can schedule the rest of our meetings for next year?
And what the cost would be.
What the cost? Okay, I'll send him
Right.
those dates
And
and
at
check
the
in on
bottom
them.
of the agenda, are the dates are listed for 2024 meetings,
Okay,
if you need that for reference.
So also, if you could check the internet speed there, that would be helpful to know in advance. Mark was going to check it before the candidate forum, but because
I did a speed test at the candidate forum,
oh, okay, good,
and it was lickety split.
excellent.
The upload was slower than the download, which is pretty normal,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
it was lickety split. It's a
Good.
wonderful facility.
what is the number that we should, I mean, if we need to, we can talk about this offline if you want, David, but just what number?
25 to 30 is typical attendance.
What'd you say? 25 to
25
30?
to 30
Okay,
has been our typical total.
okay.
And I looked at some minutes from like 2019. And I'm pretty comfortable with that number.
Okay. I'm on it.
Cool. And again, Allison, Mary, and I will also be looking at UCC. But we will have a live meeting starting January 16th of 2024. And I truly look forward to seeing as many of you as possible live and in person. Amy, you're actually next on the agenda for a quick communications committee update.
Don't have much of an update. I don't have much of an update, so we can just move forward. Sorry.
Thank you.
Nothing much in the communications department.
Except ongoing good work that we all appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Timothy Reagan. Tim has been active in advocating on behalf of getting our community center updated, which I believe is now in process.
Yep.
And Tim has a proposal as a next step for a Magnolia skate park, and he's asked for time on our agenda to share that proposal with us. Tim, the meeting is yours, and if you need to share screen, the screen's available to you.
Okay. Sounds good. Hey, thanks for letting me come on and share a little information with y'all.
Thank you.
Is that screen can you guys see that?
Not yet. There we go.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so my name's Tim Reagan, and I am the president of the Magnolia Community Center Advisory Council. I joined the council in 2020, and then within about a year, they needed somebody to step up as their president, and I did so. I'm a retired Boeing guy, and have lived in Magnolia for 30 plus years, so been around. Before I get into the skate park specifically, I just wanted to show one slide about the advisory council itself. I suspect most of you know about the advisory council, but there's a lot of words on the screen, but mostly we're the eyes and the ears of the community. And what we try to do is make sure that the programming that is offered supports what the community is interested in having, whether that's for after school care, whether that's for the senior physical education, all of that stuff. We're really trying to keep our fingers on the pulse of the community, and also try to make sure that the programming that is wanted is delivered. So that's kind of in a word what we're about. As was mentioned, yeah, we're currently closed for maintenance. The completion date is intended to be spring of 2025. So it's a pretty extensive piece of work, and nothing's very exciting. It's all stuff that has been needed for a number of years, things like structural enhancements, ADA compliance, electrical that's been kind of old and needing some work. So we're going to have a wheelchair lift from the lobby down to the gym, that kind of stuff. The restrooms will become remodeled as well as part of this. And so that's what's going on. We've, managed to move, the programming to different areas. Some of it's at Queen Anne and other places. So anyway, so that's the story on the Community Center Advisory Council. We're always looking for new folks to join. So if you know of anyone, please have them contact us, and we'd love to have some new blood. But moving on now, I'll talk a little bit about a skate park proposal. So when I joined the council, they had been talking about the possibility of a skate park, but it never really gained any legs. And I started around June of this year. I asked the question, well, if you guys want, I'll take a run at what it would take to actually put something together and find out what it would take for us to get a skate park. And so I've been on a journey to try to understand all that. Pretty steep learning curve. I haven't done any of this kind of work before, so had to learn a lot of stuff. One bit of background information that you may or may not know, but back in 2006, there was a citywide plan that was put together for skate parks throughout the city. And it's spawned a number of skate parks in different areas of the city. And Magnolia was identified back then. The Magnolia Playfield was the location that was chosen. There's different sizes and configurations of skate parks, as I'm learning. And this one was intended to be a skate dot, which is a small installation, about 1,500 square feet. So it's not going to be a real, huge skate park, but we're hoping that we can build something that would give the kids something to do, after school and so on. So generally what we're trying to look at now is we think, the audience is probably the beginner to intermediate user. We'd like the skate park to, have the ability to include not just skateboards, but bicycles, scooters, rollerblades, anything else that kids would move on any kind of wheels. And most of the skate parks that are in the area allow for all of that. So we know that Magnolia Playfield is the place identified. However, what we don't know is specifically within that park where we would place the skate park facility. And so that's kind of the challenge right now. There's, as you all know, if you've been to the Playfield, there's there's a lot of usage. We've got the baseball diamonds, the playground, tennis courts, all that stuff. So there's not a lot of real estate available to do anything. But with a 1,500 square foot max, we'll tuck something in somewhere is the idea. So like I said, back in June, July timeframe, I started to pound the pavement and see what the interest level was in Magnolia for a skate park. So I went to the Summerfest. That's where I met David and talked to him about the proposal. I've been at the farmers market, the pool, different areas, and just soliciting very grassroots sort of survey type information. And I'll show you a chart in a minute that indicates the level of interest in the community to have such a thing. The other thing that I've done is applied for a neighborhood matching grant, and they closed that program for submittals the end of October. I talked to my focal yesterday, and she indicated that the grant has been approved. She just has to do a few things to finalize everything, and then I should be formally notified here in the next couple of days. So this chart just shows, the level of interest. So in the survey, very simple survey, I asked, would you be interested in having a skate park in Magnolia? And out of 247 folks, 237 said yes. So very strong pull from the community. A lot of families with younger children, the parents I talked to, et cetera, were really interested and are quite hopeful that we'll be successful in pulling something together. So where I'm currently at with the plan is, as mentioned, I've got the grant application, should be approved next couple of days. Whole lot of work to try to pull that application together. If any of you've done one of these before, they're quite daunting if you haven't gone through the process. We've identified a skate park design firm called Grindline. They've built several skate parks in the Seattle and Puget Sound area, very well-known organization. And as I mentioned before, we don't have a firm location or configuration for the skate park. So what this grant is going to pay for is some concept designs where we'll be able to see what something might look in this location, how we might lay out some skate park installations and those kinds of things. So that's the bulk of what we're going to do with that first grant money, is just try to get some concepts that are available so that when I go out and start to solicit fundraising to do an actual skate park, we'll have a lot more information to share with the folks. So there's going to be a couple of public design meetings where we'll really just start to craft what this thing might look like. And the first one will probably happen in January. I'm still kind of waiting for the approval of the grant to, fully engage and get some dates nailed down for that first meeting. And then we'll have a second one where we will take whatever came out of that first one and kind of down select to 2 or 3 candidates. And then from there, we'll have a lot better information to pursue, a plan from that point forward. And the other thing we're going to try to do with this first phase of the project is establish internet presence with a website and some social media sites to keep everyone in the community and stakeholders aware of what the plan is and how we're proceeding. So that is pretty much all the slides I have, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions or thoughts that you might have.
Are there any questions? Janice?
Hi, Tim. Thank you. Thank you for this. I'm asking out of complete ignorance because my kid is almost 30 and he only did very safe athletics like rock climbing. So I'm really not tuned into skate parks, but just in terms of accomplishing a skate park here in Magnolia, do you anticipate that it's going to be a donation thing, or is it going to be funded through the parks, or how once you get
we'll probably do all the fundraising to develop the design and the construction. That's why I really kind of need these concept designs so I can actually cost out what something would look like. And no, so the anticipation is that we'll go back to the neighborhood matching fund, and through those grants fund both the design and eventual construction. Now, that's not to say that we won't reach out to the business community and look for sponsorships and some other ways to fundraise. But because it's envisioned to be a pretty small installation, it seems like we can probably fund it within a couple of different grants, and then maybe some additional funds through sponsorships and other fundraising activities.
So what would the ownership be? Would it be the ARC or the city, or?
Yeah, no, it would just become part of the Parks and Recs statement of work. So any maintenance that was done would just be part of the park. I've been working with the City Parks Department. We've got a person assigned from there to oversee and keep us in line with watch the progress of the plan, and then they will eventually, when we get closer to doing some actual design work, then they will get more active and assign probably a project manager to us. But I've already got one from the Parks Planning Department that is working with us.
Okay, thank you.
Allison?
Tim, thank you so much for this. It's very exciting. I just have a question. In the past, I remember when my children were at the community center, that your organization, the Advisory Council, is a nonprofit. Is that still correct?
Correct.
And right, we were able to donate funds specifically for the ballet program at that time and sort of suggest that this is money that we would like to donate for the dance program in the community center. So I just wanted to ask the question in general so everyone here would know that it sounds like maybe going forward, we might be able to make a donation towards specifically this skate park project once you have it green lighted. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I've got the Associated Recreation Council as my fiscal sponsor. They also help with fundraising activities. So, which is one of the reasons why we want to get a website up and running so that we can have sort of a donate here button applied to that. Yeah, there'll be lots of volunteer opportunities. There'll definitely be some areas where we'll be soliciting some funds from the community, small donations and that sort of thing. But yeah, so I'm kind of taking each step along this path as a learning process. As I mentioned before, I haven't actually ever tried to do anything like this before, but in my Boeing life, I was a project manager. So this is a project I kind of know how to shepherd stuff through a process. So, but yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there'll be a lot more stuff that I'll learn in terms of methods of fundraising and how we might continue to fund this project. But I feel good about, where I am right now. After only 2 or 3 months of working on it, I think we've got a decent shot at getting a good concept design by the first quarter of next year. And then from there, I think things will get a lot easier. It's really hard to explain to people about a skate park that's never, without any sort of visual to show them, yeah, it would be within this area, it would follow this pathway, or it would look like this, or it would be over in this area. And, we just need to, have those visuals to really help explain it and help people, get excited about it. We were, during these public design reviews, I really want to get as many of the folks that would use the skate park in there and providing their input, as well as, their parents and, all the rest of the stakeholders in the area. So there'll be a lot of advertising coming up. You'll see stuff in the village. You'll probably see stuff through, I'll be talking to the PTAs and PTSAs and getting information out that way. And so there'll be a fair amount of information coming out in the next couple of weeks on exactly when those meetings will be held. I'll probably do it at the Discovery Park Visitor Center. I went and looked at that area, so that's probably where we'll end up doing the meetings at.
Tim, thank you very much. And thank you for your longtime efforts on behalf of the community and for spearheading this. Carol, you have a question?
Well, I just have a comment. Having done a lot of this fundraising for different projects, Discovery Park Visitor Center is expensive. And so you might want to consider the churches, UCC, Fatima, Lutheran, Church of the Ascension, because it will help.
I did start
to pay out $300 or $400 to Discovery Park.
Well, so because we're part of the Parks and Recs department, we'll actually get that facility. I don't know if it'll be free, but we'll definitely have it. I did check with Fatima. I checked with some of the other churches in the area before I went and looked at that facility. And at the time, they were pretty booked up, with the community center going under maintenance. Obviously, that would have been first choice if we had that for doing the meetings. But yeah, that's why I'm thinking, that Discovery Park, there's the classroom, and it's got about 2,000 square feet of area. So that's kind of where I was thinking I might be able to do it.
I'd pin them down on the money, because the organization that I was with is Plata Parks, and they were charging us, I think, $375, which if you're in for fundraising, you don't really want to have to put that out.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Yeah. I'd pin them down on the
Thank
money.
you, Tim.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how to raise my hand. Zoom seems to have changed their UI and pardon me?
So reactions.
Oh, okay. There it is.
bottom
All
of the
right.
top.
I see. Yeah, I see it. Okay, thanks. Just to go back to basic, who's asking for the skate park?
Well, the ask was really originates back in that 2006 study when Magnolia was identified as that skate park. Now, the question about who's asking for it, that's why I went out to do the surveys to find out if in fact the rest of the community was still interested in having a skate park. And so
Right. Okay. I'm just curious because 2006 was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, the people you asked weren't given alternatives. Say, would you like more pickleball courts? I'm just saying, that was the only question that. Do we have any data on the usage of similar skate parks, like the one, I think there's one in Ballard Commons? Is that the closest one?
Yeah, Ballard Commons is one. They're building one in Rainier Beach. Crown Hill has
Seattle
one.
Center.
It's very similar in size to what we're envisioning as well.
I'm just curious about usage.
Uh-huh.
Before we spend a lot of money and go down this rabbit hole, is this the best use of our time and money? And is this what is most needed in the community?
Yeah, no, good
Again,
question.
I have no objection to it. I'm just wondering if these questions are being asked. And secondly, is there any thought being given to north of Blaine as opposed to south of Blaine in terms of a potential location?
Yeah, in fact, that was actually the first place that I looked for a potential site, and it turns out that the area that's just in that north of Blaine, there's actually a property dispute between the parks and the school. So rather than
No, I'm fully aware of that. Okay,
I
but, I mean,
apologize, guys. We're running overtime.
okay.
I don't mean to cut up conversation or debate. I just need to get us moving on in the agenda. I do appreciate the concerns. And if those concerns continue, we will readdress this at a future meeting or through one of our committees. But I do see that Councilman Strauss has raised his hand. And so what I'm going to do is give Dan the opportunity to speak his mind on this. And then, Dan, why don't we just skip to your portion of the agenda and let you do your general update along with Anthony. And welcome and congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. I was actually raising my hand to enter into the skate park conversation.
Yes, I understand. I was going to let you close that conversation and then segue into your.
And Tim, are you up on Emerson? Did I talk to you?
Yeah, no, we talked a couple weeks ago when you were canvassing the neighborhood. Yep.
What I can say to the group here is when I talked to Tim about this, he is further along than most people who are also interested in a similar program or project. I got to see, when I worked for Sally Bagshaw, we helped move the Seascape skate park from the Key Arena over to Broad Street. Grindline is absolutely the right people to be talking to. And when Tim and I were comparing notes, it was just really impressive at how far along he is. So just, kudos to you, Tim. Kurt, one of the questions that you asked is, what is the usage? And we see actually a problem at the Ballard Commons Park regarding the skate facility there, that it is designed for people who have to be very proficient at skating. The bowl is super deep, and it's not accessible to most people. And that's why I think that Tim's idea of having a beginning and intermediate spaces is really critical. One of the things that we've seen since 2006, when that original skate plan was set up, compared to today, is that skating is now an Olympic sport. We have it as part of young people's lives. When I was growing up, it was for the kids that were kind of bad, and now it's just seems to be all of the kids that are interested in it. So that was what I was going to share about skating and the skate park. Do other folks have questions? I know, David, we had some votes today. There was a bridge vote. I heard from a lot of folks in Magnolia about one of the amendments that I abstained from. I had real serious concerns with the funding source of that bridge amendment. It would have cut into our retirement funding for the city, for city employees. And as we are looking at the next couple years for just a budget hole and where we need to be saving money, and this was a very problematic funding source for me. I think everyone here knows my commitment to the 1-for-1 replacement of the Magnolia Bridge, my desire to see all of our bridges in our city fixed, repaired, operating well, something that's very important to me. I did pass another statement of legislative intent directing SDOT to continue their studies, and I expanded their scope of work for what they need to be studying in Inner Bay, not only with Magnolia Bridge, but also Dravis Bridge and the Ballard Bridge. And really, I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to attend tonight. You might have seen that when I jumped on, I was still at the light rail station. I am now at home. I wanted to introduce you to my Deputy District Director, Anthony Rodriguez. Anthony, I don't know if you want to raise your hand or say hello.
Yeah, hi everyone. Anthony, Legislative Assistant and Deputy District Director for Strauss's office. Looking forward to working with everyone here. I know that things are going to shift a little January 1st. So yeah, really excited to be a part of this meeting and future ones as well.
And Anthony controls my life. So if you want things from the office or things from me, Anthony is your key to success here, which is part of why I wanted to introduce you to him as soon as possible, understanding especially that you don't have a December meeting. And, I don't know, I'm sure that there are people in this room that supported my race. I'm sure that there are people who supported the other candidate in my race. And I just want you all to know it doesn't matter to me who you supported. I'm here to work for you. I'm excited to work for you. Magnolia is important to me. I think I've shared with all of you. I went to preschool in the village. I grew up not far from it, and I'm just really excited to be back in Magnolia. And I know that with the transition in District 7, I've already started talking to Bob. I'm excited to work with Bob, and that's about it. But I'm happy to take questions if you got them.
Bruce?
Yes, Bob has proposed a restoration of the old district council, which many of us were quite fond. Would you see that kind of a thing developing in your district, and perhaps we could combine together and have more horsepower?
Yeah, I think it again comes down to funding. I guess you all don't know this about me. One of the reasons why I have a district office and that I attend to all of the district council meetings, whether through me or my staff, is because it is important for me that, I was on the Ballard District Council before it was disbanded. I continued to attend those meetings once it was, and it was all volunteer like this. Whether or not the Department of Neighborhood supports you with funding, it's important for me to show up and be your advocate and be your liaison. So whether or not the Department of Neighborhoods is doing it, I see myself in that role.
Well, it'd be helpful if you could push with the Department of Neighborhoods to get us the kind of support we had before, which was very, very helpful.
I will, however, Dan, mention and call out a woman named Laura Jenkins. I hope I'm remembering her name correctly, at the Department of Neighborhoods, who has been a wonderful colleague and supporter of our group. And it would be nice to go back to the pre-Ed Murray format at some point in time. I think we'd all advocate for that. I think it was good for the city, right? But I will give kudos to Laura nonetheless. Are there any other questions for Dan? Dan, we've really appreciated that you've been joining us. This is actually your first meeting where you're not just a guest, but our councilman-elect. And we look forward to seeing you and or Anthony throughout 2024 and beyond. And we do look forward to working with you. And we very much appreciate you listening and talking to us.
Oh, I'm super excited. And yes, you're correct, David. This is the first meeting that I've taken with you on my government phone, and that I get, my staff support here. I'll just riff off of that Department of Neighborhoods thing one more time. Where my district office is at the Ballard Library, it's technically at the Ballard Service Center, and that used to be Department of Neighborhoods managed, and now it is Finance Administrative Services managed. And one of the things that has been really important to me is to come work from, not only just work from there, but add art, add plants, add just letting people know that it's there for them to use. Because I have seen with the department, with that change from Department of Neighborhoods to FAS, that there was something left to be desired.
Thank you.
Hmm.
I'll ask one last time and then we'll move on. Are there any other questions for Councilman Strauss?
I see Bob's off mute. He's got some hard-hitting questions. He hit him with me earlier.
Does he look forward to working with his D7 elect counterpart?
Darn straight I do.
And we're excited to have both of you.
Well, we're committed to both working together for Magnolia, so.
And we believe you. And we're excited about it. Earl, can we get a quick, a brief public safety update from you?
Yes, and this is a great segue to the conversation we just had. Two things I'm going to talk about. One, well, Dan and Bob are still on, and maybe they'll stay for the whole meeting. But I just got an update a couple days ago from my colleague in crime, Dave Goodell, who works with the Magnolia Chamber of Commerce. He and I have been following up on this issue of the streetlight project in Magnolia, Southeast Magnolia, and then along Western Magnolia that drags on and on. But the update I got from him was regarding an even bigger problem, and that is the lights or lack of light on Magnolia Bridge. And both Dan and Bob, I just want you to know that what was related to me was that City Light says all the lights on Magnolia Bridge are not their responsibility. It's a responsibility of SDOT. When I had a meeting this past summer with City Light people, they informed me that some of the material, some of the assets were City Light assets, the light poles and the lights, and the other parts are SDOT. Okay, it sounded like a lot of bureaucratic mumbo jumbo, and the bottom line is no one is repairing those lights on Magnolia Bridge, and it is a safety hazard. It's dangerous to drive that flyover. City Light says one of the problems, even though they've said it's SDOT's problem, they've said copper thieves continue to break into those light posts on the flyover portion of the bridge and steal the copper. That's clearly a huge problem, but for every problem there's a solution, and I've got to believe either City Light or SDOT or the two of them working together can solve that problem. This has been going on for several years now, okay, and it's unacceptable to the community to have that lack of light on the bridge. So I share that with you and hope that you will address that. Secondly,
Thanks,
yeah.
Could I just jump in real quick? Anthony, if you could put your email address into the chat here. Earl, we've dealt with this on the Aurora Bridge and the Ballard Bridge before. So this is not new, and I have seen SDOT and City Light repair these lights in ways that they then don't have the theft happen again. I have consistently found departments don't necessarily work together. I'm already working on a constituent casework on 33rd Avenue West in Magnolia of drainage because SPU says it's SDOT's problem and SDOT says it's SPU's problem. So if you could let Anthony know, just send him a quick note. We'll follow up on this. And then once Bob's settled in his office, we'll loop him in since it's technically his district. But
okay.
we'll get started.
Great. Thank you. The second thing, and I'll be very quick on this, is late last month, I convened a meeting of the Public Safety Committee. Carol, Jason, David, and Laura Newborn participated in that. The purpose of the meeting was really to talk about priorities for the Public Safety Committee in 2024. I just belatedly sent out a draft of the priorities based on our conversation to that group. Haven't gotten all the feedback from them yet, but wanted to share it with this group and encourage you to provide me your comments, because I want to make sure in 2024 our Public Safety Committee can start to ramp up and be as good as the one that Bob Kettle ran for the Queen Anne Community Council. And I had the pleasure of talking with Bob last spring about public safety issues and their committee and all the work that they do. So quickly, some of the priorities that we talked about, and I just complained about to our council members elect: repair of Magnolia Bridge lights, high priority. Improved access to and increased safety on public transit. That's not just a Magnolia issue, that's city and county wide, nothing new to our council members. Emergency preparedness and coordination with other groups. I need to follow up and reach out to, I think is it Frank Gard? I think Carol provided me that name.
It's
but
Gaul, G-A-U-L, Gaul.
Gaul, okay, thank you. So I will follow up with him. The other thing is we want to look into providing awareness and education about the Office of Police Accountability. Perhaps have a speaker come out and educate us about what that office does, so that we're informed citizens. I think that's an important thing. The other thing is to make sure we coordinate with the Queen Anne Community Council and others on Inner Bay and Port area public safety issues. You know, that whole area basically between the Ballard Bridge, Magnolia Bridge, Queen Anne Community Council does a lot, I think, to monitor what's going on there. Our committee needs to be more active in that and coordinate with Queen Anne and also the port and Burlington Northern, maybe, both of whom have police forces that deal with issues on their property. The other thing is periodic meetings with SPD's West Precinct captain and officers assigned to Magnolia. Again, an opportunity for us to get to know SPD officers and them to get to know us, and do that in coordination with Magnolia Chamber of Commerce. I'm getting together with the Chamber's executive director next Tuesday for coffee to talk about ways that we can do that effectively. And that is the end of my report. So please provide me any comments, just email me things that you think the Public Safety Committee should be focusing on in 2024.
Earl, that was wonderful and very comprehensive, and awesome too. I
just the right amount of wine factor for our council members.
Yes. Good
Earl.
job. I would, if you could get a contact from the Office of Police Accountability over to Allison and myself, perhaps we could follow up on getting them scheduled. We have Sound Transit scheduled for the January meeting. So perhaps it would make sense to look to perhaps February. But we'll follow up on getting that scheduled. That's a great suggestion, I think.
I'll let Jason know, because he was going to contact them directly, I think. So
okay, but yeah, for one of
Sure.
our upcoming meetings, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Earl, thank you for your comments. Clearly, I should have gotten a hold of you for a testimonial mailer. I'll remember that for
the next election.
when you went for
And by the way, the
re-election?
OPA is important, but so is the CPC, the Community Police Commission, along with the IG, the three elements. But the Community Police Commission, Joel Merkel would be a good person to talk to in the future as well.
Okay.
And I'll bring Council Member Elect Dan Strauss for D6 up to speed on the Magnolia public safety issues that we're facing in the region.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Cool.
And then Earl, I'd also say if you, I'd be happy to meet with you. There's some proven best practices that we've been using in other parts of D6 with, I call them block watches on steroids. Just some good basic tools that I've been employing with community members so that they have better communication within themselves, and then they have a point of contact with my office that helps them get the responses that they need, so that they're not only in communication with each other in real time, but then they also have me as an asset.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I'll follow up.
Earl, thank you again. Janice, a quick NAC. update?
So as you know, the NAC is the Neighbors Advisory Committee, which is a joint committee among the Port, Queen Anne, and Magnolia. So Queen Anne Community Council and Magnolia Community Council. It's not unfortunate, that's too strong a word, but we meet the day after our MCC meeting. So it's a little bit hard to report what's going to happen. We have a meeting tomorrow that's actually going to be important because we're getting the transportation study report. One of the reasons that the NAC was formed was to, it was formed as a result of Piers 90 and 91 being turned into fishing piers instead of a container port. And now they have the cruise ships. So part of the agreement is that there won't be undue traffic on either the Magnolia Bridge or on 15th. And they do annual traffic studies and report to us. Things have gotten naturally a little bit screwed up in a good way because of COVID, because we haven't had quite so much traffic. But now that the cruise ship industry, they've had like a record year in terms of numbers of passengers and numbers of sailings from Piers 90 and 91. So we're very interested in what the results are. It's a balance between the freight mobility, people in Magnolia getting to and from, mostly to work up and down the bridge, and now it's going to be compounded by the impacts of Expedia. So they're required to do the study. There were preset goals as to how much traffic we could tolerate. And just about every year, those have been exceeded. It's unknown what enforcement, if any, can be done about that. But it's been a very, very positive relationship, a great opportunity to meet with Queen Anne. The port has been, I think, a superb partner and neighbor, and they are very responsive to what's going on in Magnolia and what's going on in Queen Anne. And we're going to really need to keep this relationship, strong and positive when we have to deal with issues like the Magnolia Bridge replacement, which has right-of-way issues over their property. So anyway, that meeting is tomorrow. If there's any big news, any huge change with the traffic report, I'll let you know, but that's what's going on with the NAC. The other thing is that part of the agreement is that we would have to run our meetings an impartial facilitator brought in from the outside. And we've had the privilege of having Weldon Ehrig for a number of years. and he's retiring from the position. He has proposed, and we're working on this, just a series of responsibilities and expectations of what it means if somebody from Magnolia or Queen Anne joins the NAC as a representative, what the responsibilities are to the port, and basically just spelling things out. So that's going to be an interesting process. I think it'll be very positive, but anyway, I think there was one question. Somebody had a hand up.
Scott.
Yeah, just it's great to hear that Sound Transit is going to be at the meeting in January. But I had a question for either Dan Strauss or Bob Kettle. Are either of you involved in land use or zoning? Is that a different council member, different committee, or?
No, that is totally me.
Okay. Just,
Yeah.
I think it would be the one thing that I'm really interested in is what the impact and what the change may be to Interbay with the new stations. And, you know, in particular, the city of Seattle and Sound Transit really did nothing at the Soto station because of the proximity to industrial family wage jobs. And so completely underutilized station, underutilized investment, and nothing's happened there. So I think there's a great opportunity here, so that, you know, and forgive me if haven't been part of the discussion yet, but I look forward to having more discussions with the city, with the port, and with Sound Transit on kind of how to optimize the land use around those two stations.
Yeah, so
There you go.
go for it, Bob, and then I'll jump in.
I was just going to say, I served for 8 years on the Queen Anne Community Council board last year, and before rolling off last year, and so well aware of the land use issues as it relates to Queen Anne, and a little bit into Magnolia, but especially Interbay, because obviously that's this area that essentially Magnolia and Queen Anne share in a lot of ways. And so yeah, mindful of those things, but also going back to Earl's point, emergency preparedness, it's also an area that really falls under public safety due to the unique considerations for Interbay as it relates to earthquakes and tsunamis and liquefaction and the like, planning considerations. So that's putting my old public safety committee chair hat on. I will make that claim up front, but yeah, definitely some land use issues as it relates to, you know, the transit and you know, the plans are coming up. And I don't think it'll be the same as Soto though, and particularly to the north, you know, I don't think it would be quite the same.
So it's similar and different. And because Soto was underutilized, we just made some pretty big changes. And then I'll tag on to Bob's point about liquefaction. Also, we have the National Guard base there that is responsible for responding to a natural disaster that they would also be inundated with. It's like the ability to get in and out of Interbay is extremely problematic. That's why I've been championing the Boundary Bay Regional Transportation Corridor for so long. But getting back to your question about land use, this year we were able to pass the first changes to industrial land since 2007. These strengthened the protections in and around our waterways and our truly industrial zones. And then on the buffers and on the edges, it loosened requirements and allowed for housing, and then created a new type of industrial zone around light rail stations. And so this is a zone around light rail stations as long as the building has is built for an industrial use on the first floor. So that's like the height of ceilings, the ability to carry certain weights on the floors, etc. If they do that on the first floor, then they're able to put office space above. Interbay was not chosen as one of these areas during these rezones, but part of Ballard was. And so I would see us coming back to this. I'll also say that in the interim, we've got the winningest team in Seattle's history based down in Interbay right now, the Seattle Storm. And I'm really excited for the public space vibrancy projects that Deborah Juarez and I have been working on the budget right now that will be coming into play. Right now they're calling it Storm Country. I don't know if they're going to call it the Storm Zone or if they're going to change that name, but I think that That's a really important way to plant the seeds ahead of that light rail coming in, because we will need to make some zoning changes, and hopefully we will have some lessons learned from how these zoning changes around Soto and Ballard have played out by then. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
Thank you.
And
David, you have
I'd say don't forget about Ballard FC in terms of winning teams occupying the Inner Bay area. I know they're moving to Memorial Stadium next year, but I believe that's because of improvements that are being made at the Inner Bay Stadium.
Kurt, you're spot on. I am an annual season ticket holder of Ballard FC. And they were actually supposed to move over to Memorial Stadium this last season, but because having your second inaugural season at a new stadium really changes your fan experience in a pretty major way when you're just trying to get started. We were able to negotiate a delay of that move for a year. And Ginny, I met with Ginny Gilder of the Seattle Storm. She's very excited about essentially south of Dravis being a soccer zone, and then north of Dravis being storm country. And the way that we're crafting the proposals before us right now allows for that commingling and that integration right there. It's really cool.
And don't forget pickleball.
Well, the pickleball is coming in too.
Yeah, and I believe sometime in the first quarter of this coming year, Marie Barrientos, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, is also planning on updating us. Their plans took a bit of a left turn over the summer. They made some changes, and I believe she's going to be updating us in February or March. I'd like to move on now. David, for our land, it seems like a logical segue, as a matter of fact, based on the stream of conversation. David Mooring, our land use chair. David, if I'm not mistaken, this is your last update for us as land use chair. And thank you. I've learned so much from you. As I told you the other day, sometimes it's been difficult to keep up. But we really appreciate the passion and the thoroughness that you've done a great job. And I just felt it needed to be acknowledged. And now, please update us on the land use committee.
Well, thank you, Dave. And I just want to say that I'm very excited about a good person taking over and doing much better than I actually. I think Scott Surdike and I have known each other for a little bit. Scott was very involved with the Safeway development in downtown Magnolia that we hope eventually kicks back to life. But I also want to say, Bob, it's great to see you, and congratulations on your election, and also for Dan Strauss as well. Dan, you are one of the hardest working city council members that I know of, and it's great to have you serve District 6 and the majority area of Magnolia as well. And looks like you got another good guy working for you, Anthony. Good to meet you, Anthony. So I just want to share really quickly a event that we had on November 4th. I'm going to share my screen. I put in the chat link too, and kind of a culmination of work that Magnolia Community Council has been involved with for quite a while is trying to revitalize this Ursula Judkins Viewpoint Park. Now that the FAA equipment has kind of been removed from this park, as if you drive by up from the top edge of the Magnolia Bridge, you can kind of look and you'll see a gravel area. Not very useful as it is right now, and had AP Diaz out there. Again, thank you for organizing him to come out and take a look. But we are very grateful that Seattle Parks and Recreation was able to have a public outreach. They engaged a landscape architect, Karen Keast, as you know, and there was maybe about 20 people, several people in this meeting were there from the Magnolia Community Council to provide some input. And I'd like to do is share real quickly a concept drawing that was shared by Karen. And let me see if I can make this larger here. All right, assume you can see this letter format. But Karen basically is hired for a very small amount of money to kind of generate a quick concept for the purposes of discussion and how to help finish Ursula Jenkins, and especially in the East End where the FAA equipment was removed. And what I'd like to do is, you might recall, I think perhaps Andrew Lewis may have helped to raise the attention on this as well. Andrew had asked us to prepare a letter of what type of improvements the Magnolia Community Council would be interested in, or would recommend anyway. And we did send that about a year ago. So what I'd like to have the trustees consider is a modified version of that letter based upon some of the input that we've heard, and send a copy of that to Pamela from Seattle Parks. You just probably saw this. You've seen this version, since last year, but you just saw this recently. So I'm not sure if I can ask the trustees to vote on this or not, or if you want to some time to look it over. But basically, it says that we applaud the effort of Parks for the Ursula Jenkins Viewpoint Park, and we thank them for their work. And that, again, mentioning that we're kind of following up on what work we've done with Andrew Lewis back in June of 2022, and that we're kind of looking for some, these are some of the recommendations or suggestions from their concept plan that we might be interested in. And there's really no changes here from what the Magnolia Community Council had advocated for in the past. One of the things that Karen mentioned was leveling the grade of that gravel area so that it's at a accessible height. When we were out there with AP Diaz, there was actually a elderly couple that we think you mentioned before, elderly person with her family who was trying to get a good view and basically used a walking stick to, and with the help of her son, who was probably my age, to get down and take a look. So having something accessible rather than a place for cars to pull in, like a drive-in movie, I think would be great, or we think would be great. Converting that whole eastern side of the park to be more pedestrian use and fixed seating, as well as Dave brought up a great point of maybe this is opportunity to honor Ursula with a plaque, and as well as perhaps honor other Seattle women of influence in this park. Again, it's one of 5, I believe, in the city of Seattle, 5 of 400 parks that are named after a woman. And then reduce the vehicle parking maybe to 8 to 12 spaces in that effort to make it more pedestrian. Remove the privately owned installed fencing that was installed by Ocean Star. Emerald House has razor wire on the top, and it's sitting on the park property by about 3 or 4 feet. So get that out of there. And then with this design concept, allow for future design opportunities. Maybe it's through some larger donations from institutional sources that might allow for either a viewing area trellis or pavilion to protect the people from rain, and perhaps even going so far as to have a pedestrian or pet pathway between the Ursula Jenkins Viewpoint Park and the Smith Cove Park. And when it's mentioning, mentioning Smith Cove, in the final paragraph, mentioning that we'd certainly want to look at this at the completion of the Smith Cove Park with a longer term plan for Ursula Jenkins Park. So yeah, one of the examples we looked at was by crack, I should say. There's several ways to pronounce that. And that's another park where there's a large change in grade elevation to get down from the Bicrack Park on the north end to the Fifth Avenue location. You basically have to go down about 60 feet. Our Ursula Jenkins Park is about 118 feet, I believe, so it's about twice as much. But a lot of that is used. A lot of that larger land area would help us navigate a possible winding path that could be accessible for the most part. And there is all that land there is either owned by parks or part of SDOT. There is some private land right along the Marina Place. So there might also be opportunities to in the future as this, is a future plan to possibly provide a connection by swapping some of the private land with SDOT's right away along that steep slope. But is there, just wanted to kind of stop there and see if there's any questions. And I see that Kurt has a question. Kurt.
Yeah, has there been any discussion about having SDOT vacate that right of way, since you can't possibly build a street there?
Not yet, but we did talk to some folks that has been done in the past. It is a legislative process as well, I believe. Perhaps Councilmember Strauss might know that, but I think that would be something that we would start now and finish, 5 years from now. I think the important thing right now on our agenda is to at least make the park more accessible and appear finished. And then once that's done, then we can look at the possibilities of getting donors to do this pathway down to Smith Cove Park. Carol.
The SDOT giving up the right of way was done in Kiwanis Ravine, and I think that required a council motion. But they had, there were all kinds of roads platted that there's absolutely no way you would build them. There were roads platted at the bottom of Kiwanis Ravine, which is a wetland, plus you have to get down there.
There are roads planted under Puget Sound, or plotted under Puget Sound.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
that is such a steep slope that you can't possibly build anything on it.
The city had this great idea early on to build a network of highways in the bottom of all the ravines. It's there in city archives. It makes for interesting reading because it's like, well, okay, there are ravines all over the city, but how do you get in and out of them?
Any other questions? Oh, yes, I see Bruce.
Yes, when we were working on Smith Cove Park several years ago, we suggested to Parks the idea of a pedestrian connection with the top of the Magnolia Bridge, and they vetoed it.
Yeah, I think part of that may have been due to the budget too, right, Bruce?
No, they just wouldn't have it, but minds can be changed, but they were not at that time.
Thank you, Bruce.
David, I've read this letter carefully, and other than changing the Mr. to Ms. At the top.
Good catch.
I'm speaking personally. I would be very comfortable signing this letter on behalf of the Magnolia Community Council, transferring it to our letterhead and all of that. But I believe that would require a vote. And I'm wondering if the other folks on in this meeting, the other trustees, have had a chance to read the letter, and whether or not, and I'm sure Stephen DeForest will put me on the straight and narrow if I'm going down the wrong path, but whether or not I could make a motion to send this, to sign and send this letter to Pam, and I copy Karen and I suppose our city council members.
Hey, Lester has his hand up.
Just one quick, is the park still in District 7 or is it in District 6?
7.
It's still in sub 7. Okay. I was going to say that might need to be changed. Okay.
I think that as a point of order, I think the committee has made the motion. Which
That's
committee can, and it is de facto seconded in committee.
Carol, does that mean I should call for a vote?
If you want to.
I'm comfortable with it.
You don't have to ask for a motion and a second, but you can do it if you want.
Are there any objections to or comments or concerns about us submitting this letter to Parks on behalf of the Magnolia Community Council?
Steve has his hand.
David, I think that you're one step ahead of the proper procedure.
Thank you.
I would think that what would be appropriate would be a motion to approve the report itself, but not to be going the next step, which would be sending a letter that you've written without having that been brought up at a regular trustee meeting, which would be in January.
This letter.
That's right.
My concern is timeliness.
Well, timeliness for what purpose?
For purposes of communicating to Parks when they are asking for feedback.
You can send them a copy of the report that's been adopted as a report by the council. That makes them aware of where we stand on it. I'm just concerned about other trustees who may or may not even be present or have had a chance to review it or to consider it. And we have some newly elected trustees. I think it'd be wiser to get them on board, everyone on board, if it's going out as a letter from the president of the community council. Your call, but.
So we're basically sending the same information. We're transmitting the same information, but procedurally it'll be in a different format for our group.
Basically,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay, that works.
But let's go ahead and be sure that Parks has our report in the meantime.
Yes. I think that's what Steve's recommending. I think.
Yes.
Yep, I'm just concurring, yes.
Okay. Steve, I'll absolutely follow your lead here. David, let's make sure that I have the complete report and I will forward it.
Do we have to approve the report or just send it?
Well, we are approving the report, yes.
Okay.
I think Don already made a motion to approve the report.
Okay.
Don, is that correct?
I did.
I second.
Are there any objections to approving the report? Are there any objections? we will submit the report. Thank you all. And Stephen, thank you for your guidance.
Thank you very much.
And David, thank you. By the way, I want to make one last point. Having participated in this event last Saturday, and when they were doing the initial presentation to us, neither Pamela nor Karen said anything about who Ursula Jenkins was. And that's when I had this realization that they didn't know, and sure enough, they did not. I think one very important element of what we're requesting here is that plaque. I did not know who Ursula Jenkins was until Ted and Jean and David got us involved in this battle to protect the viewpoint. She was an amazing person, and we should get that 45 to 50 word, memorial. She's been gone now for 23 years.
Wow.
I talked to Larry Phillips. She was an amazing human being. And I do think that's a very important element of what we're asking for here.
And she was directly or indirectly on the park's payroll. I took an aerobics class from her at the community center 100 years ago. I mean, she was everything here.
Yeah, Larry told me she was instrumental in the West Point treatment plant, right? Just one thing after the other.
Just added, David, sorry to interrupt. I just added the link to the Ursula Judkin page from our Magnolia Community Council website. If anybody would like to do some reading up on all the amazing things that Ursula Judkins has done for our community.
Amy, thank you. I'm going to
Anytime.
click on that right now. So it's open. I can look at it when we adjourn. That's a blinding flash of the obvious. Thank you. Next, Janice, transportation.
Okay, so Councilmember Strauss has already reported on the amendment that passed. We were alerted that this amendment for bridge safety was on the books. We sent out an alert, and I put a feedback loop in. So we additionally asked people to let us know if they had responded to the email. And Magnolia, you are amazing. You are wonderful. We had probably 40 people click the link saying, yes, I sent an email. And I know that most people don't bother to do that. So there apparently was very strong support from the Magnolia community. It is frustrating and a shame that that there can't be a funding source for bridge safety in this city that doesn't steal from the pension funds. And I am hopeful that Councilmember-elect Kettle and Councilmember Strauss will come up with some sort of funding for transportation. So that's about the only thing that's happening as far as our Magnolia Bridge is going. As far as Sound Transit goes, you may have heard that there's been what Sound Transit is referring to as a conscious uncoupling of the West Seattle to downtown segment of ST3 from the downtown to Ballard segment. And what that means is that they're going ahead with the West Seattle, since they have decided on where those stations are going to be. They're going ahead with that. But the downtown to Ballard segment is being held up by some controversy or issues or new placement for the downtown, like south of Soto, or south of downtown, north of downtown station. And I think there's also some question as to whether where a station is going to be located in South Lake Union. So those are going to require a DEIS, a draft environmental impact statement, prior to making the final decisions and that just puts the timeline out longer, of course. So from what I understand, there isn't controversy about the stations at Gaylor. There's not a controversy about the Interbay station or the Dravis station. There may be some alteration with the Ballard station. It looks like they're definitely going to go to a tunnel, but it's going to be a little bit longer. So I hope in my lifetime, I'll be able to take a ride on light rail from this area down to the airport, which is going to be a
All
one
live
station.
so long.
What's that?
I said we should all live so long.
We should also live so long, yes. So I also wanted to say, just a point of personal privilege, that Steve DeForest's wife is the most wonderful, kindest person in the world. And he knows what I mean. So that's all.
No one will disagree. Any questions for Janice? Thank you. So I did confirm with Mary this morning, this is my placeholder on the agenda, that she was going to be, that she was preparing a treasurer's report and that she was going to join us this evening. But she is not. When I do receive the report, I will send it out. Will function as our year-end treasury report. And at this point, I'll ask, is there any new business or good of the order that we need to address before we adjourn?
David?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Mary this afternoon about her.
Yes.
It's now been finalized. You'll be receiving it very soon.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I will share it, of course, with all of our trustees.
Right.
Any other new business, good of the order? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Second.
You can vote in the affirmative by leaving the meeting. Thank you. Good to see everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.